Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. Last night, I reached up on the shelf of my library to pull down a book by then-Senator John F. Kennedy called Profiles in Courage. What Senator Kennedy did was to try to highlight those members of the United States Senate who had the courage to stand up and just say no. Some of them did it at the cost of their political future. Edmund Ross of Kansas, that chapter particularly moving, a conservative Republican who voted against the impeachment of Andrew Johnson and saved Johnson by one vote. That was the end of Ross's political career. But his action and his courage rings through history. Where are the profiles in courage today in the Republican Party? I know there are vigorous debates one way or the other why Jimmy Kimmel was ultimately dismissed. Was it his ratings? Was it the question of ABC not being happy with him? All of these issues which are being raised now, which frankly are superfluous. Why do I say that? Because in the end, it was because of the remarks by the chairman of the FCC and the endorsement of the White House, which we have heard repeatedly now, that caused Jimmy Kimmel's program to be canceled. That to me is very, very disturbing. What is more disturbing is some of you who have indicated to me through communications that you think I'm wrong, that in fact what the president did was completely legitimate, and that there was no implication by the president or his administration of dissatisfaction which caused the removal of Jimmy Kimmel. I am not blind, I am not deaf, and I am certainly not unable to witness what is happening today in the United States of America. We should be deeply concerned when a president of the United States threatens the media. That's right. I wouldn't care whether it was a Democrat or a Republican. And so what I'm really doing is addressing Trump supporters who are listening right now. Can you imagine if Joe Biden or Barack Obama had done what Donald Trump and his administration are doing now? Can you imagine the fury that would have been demonstrated by the right? I know that deep down you understand. But what is particularly disturbing to me, almost galling to me, is that the loyalty to the president is more important than loyalty to the Constitution, and in particular, the First Amendment. That's what bothers me. You take away the question of the issue of who's right and who's wrong, who said what and who did this or who did that. Deal only with a simple, remarkable issue. When there is a cause and there is an effect, and the cause and effect are clearly relevant and clear, why be in denial? And where are members of the United States Senate who, frankly, know better? They do. Otherwise, they have no business being in the United States Senate. Courage in politics is sometimes rare, but sometimes you can see it clearly. What we're seeing from the Republicans today is an abdication of their responsibility to America. Oh, I know. Some of you will say, why aren't you being critical of the Democrats? Because the Democrats are doing exactly the right thing. I know that I've been around a long time. And I remember when Barry Goldwater, John Rhodes, and Hugh Scott went down to the White House in 1974. They were old friends of Richard Nixon. They had all worked with him. They had all campaigned for him. They had all supported him. And yet, when push came to shove, they had the courage to stand up and say, Mr. President, what you did was wrong. I have yet to hear Republican leadership stand up and just say, Mr. President, what you have done and what you are doing is wrong. I was on the radio for almost 30 years. And during that time, no one ever told me what I could or could not say. And I'm very grateful for that. And the reason that I had that freedom, not only from my employers, but in my own mind, was because of the First Amendment. If a comedian can be bumped simply because he expresses views or makes a joke, well, I always think of Jerry Ford, emblematic of what the Republican Party once was. And you remember how he was ridiculed on the late night shows, Saturday Night Live? He was called a klutz and always pictured falling down, if you remember the caricature. Jerry Ford didn't respond by urging that Saturday Night Live be taken off the air. Quite the contrary. He was willing to accept the fact and then play into it and ridicule it, and became even a stronger president because of it. What Donald Trump is doing now is so disturbing. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, whether you're a liberal or a conservative. We are going to enter now a weekend in which there will be much debate and much discussion about this question. Let me be clear. I do hold these truths to be self-evident. I do believe that the First Amendment is more important than any other individual. I do believe that we need profiles in courage who will stand up and say to the president, on this issue, Mr. President, even if I agree with you on everything else, you're wrong. And the fact that there is a deafening silence from the Republican leadership and the Republican Party should concern us all. Silence is acquiescence, and that is the problem. I don't want silence. I want the same outrage to be felt by all Americans. And for those of you who send me messages defending Donald Trump, saying, but look at all the good things he's doing, I've said it before and I'll say it again. One misstep of such consequential importance as an attack on freedom of speech, well, that's enough for me. That means that a person is unworthy of holding political leadership. I'm waiting for a Republican to stand up and be a profile in courage, to just say no to this president who has, I think, demonstrated, self-evident, is out of control. There needs to be a restraint on this president. And ABC and, yes, the other networks need to have a step up in their courage. Their responsibility is to the people of the United States and to the First Amendment. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which is, of course, our goal. I want to thank all of you who send me your comments. Some of them I agree with, some of them I disagree with, but you know something? That's what American democracy is all about, right? To Go-Go's Ogre, the wonderful producer of this podcast, thanks, Go-Go. It's always a pleasure. I am John Rothman, and you are listening to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.